you have to run for office. By running for office, by getting a good vote, and yes, you are going to be vilified, you're going to be called everything under the sun, but you have to tough that out, I'm afraid. You have to have a great deal of resilience, you have to have a very thick skin, and you have to have a bit of backbone. And
which I wonder about our leaders, why there aren't, given all the problems that we're confronting, and increasingly so, why people who grew up going to good schools, you would assume they were brought up good to be honorable and do the right thing, why there's a dearth of leaders. I mean, you mentioned Mr. Griffin and you, and where's everybody else? Why? I just wonder. You would think as large a population is out there, there would be more people just naturally perceiving the problems and saying, "Look, we got to stand up and go against this."
When I spoke in New Orleans, I had a very short speech there. Time was running out, but I said America was the sleeping giant of the nationalist movement, the sleeping giant, without any shadow of a doubt. It could happen very, very quickly with the right organisation, but it just needs a few people to have a good, strong nucleus, a good ideology, because you have to have ideology, you have to agree with things. A lot of people in America just simply blame Jewish people for all their problems, and it isn't like that. It's a cop-out. It isn't like that at all. That's unfortunately synonymous, that message is synonymous with the nationalist movement in America, and you're not going to go anywhere with that kind of message. You have to look at your own frailties of where you've gone wrong and what you've done, and you look, if you want to get involved in politics properly, you look at how people think, what they want to hear, how you're going to deliver. You've got to look at the logistics, the mechanics, the fundraising, and you don't have to start large. You can start small.
You put your finger on something that's really interesting. You're right that there is an obsession with the Jewish problem, so to speak. And I live in Mississippi, and there are very, very few Jews who even live in Mississippi, and we don't have any Jewish members of Congress. All our members are Christians. But the theory goes here is that they're Zionist, and while they're not Jewish, the Jewish lobby in Washington, AIPAC, pretty much dictates of what they do. In other words, if they were to speak out against Israel, or if they were to try to shut our borders or anything, AIPAC and these other Jewish lobbyist groups would defeat them. So that's the problem identified. How do you respond to that?
Well, there is a very powerful Zionist lobby in America, very, very powerful indeed. But not all Jewish people think the same way as that. We've got Jewish councillors in the BNP. People who think the same way as I do. We have Jewish members. They're not a problem. They think the same way as I do. And I have looked at this, and I don't understand this preoccupation with the American right, for want of a better word, with Zionism. And yes, there is a problem, but it's not all pervasive. It's not something that should just dominate everything and with the way you operate. And I think it's like this. I think it's a very, very convenient excuse for prophesizing. Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you just blame Zionists for the state of America, then and say how powerful they are and it's hopeless, then you don't have to do anything, do you? You're making a nice bed for yourself for which you can lie in. There are plenty of issues out there that American people can get involved with if they want to start things, and just blaming Jewish people, blaming Israel all the time, it just doesn't wash.
Yeah, there's a side of me that I don't like blaming. Ultimately, I think people are ultimately responsible themselves. It's easy to blame other people. Anytime you start blaming someone too much, you haven't looked at yourself closely enough. That's a real tough issue, though. I mean, and when you speak of the right, of course, there are two rights here in America. There's the conservatives, and then there's, I guess they call themselves white nationalists. I'm not sure what that is yet, but I'm trying to figure that out. But, people like Pat Buchanan, he's accused of being anti-Semitic, but he he doesn't go as far as some white nationalists, or as far as, say, David Duke would go in condemning Jewish people. But do you think it's possible? I mean, do you think do you have a blueprint that you could share with a group, a nucleus here in America, as to how to do what y'all have done in England?
Well, Nick has said on many occasions, if American people wanted to go down the path of sensible nationalism, a sensible way of doing things, a proper entrance into the political system, he will go over there and spend time. We can't afford to give you money, unfortunately, but I think that's the least of your problems, because I know there's some very, very wealthy people in America who could certainly bankroll a nucleus movement over there. But
I think
it's not rocket science, Jim. The thing is, it's not rocket science. You just got to learn that you start small, you touch down small, and then you build. You get people together. You have a very, very tight nucleus of people who all have the same ideology and sense of determination. And whilst we'll certainly give you advice on how there'll be people coming in there and trying to disrupt your movement, and this is what they'll do to give you bad publicity, and this is how you should do this, that, and the other. It is up to the Americans themselves to think to themselves, come on, this is happening in Europe now. We're going to lose our country. We're going to lose America if we don't do something about this. And what motivates me is my forefathers, who made so many sacrifices, through the Ice Age and through the Second World War and the First World War. Just look at America. Look at the powerhouse that America once was. An absolutely massive powerhouse, and it's all been left to die, isn't it? And it's such a shame.
It does look like it's dying too. It really does. You make an interesting point about there's a lot of wealth and money here in the States, and I've been told ever since I got involved in activism that there's a lot of money sitting on the sideline. They're just not satisfied with the sorts of people that are out there advocating addressing this issue. In other words, I don't think they've really truly, we found a Nick Griffin, so to speak. If we did, I think things could really take off. I'm going to be trying to exploit that idea. We really need ideas, and I am delighted to have started a conversation with you in the BNP, and I very much look forward to talking with you again in the future. And I would love at some point in the future to get an interview with Mr. Griffin and just hear his voice. I think, I've never heard it. I mean, I've seen the video on YouTube and whatnot, but we need a model. We need more than anything. I think is we need a white knight, someone who's good and unassailable, that doesn't have anything bad in their character, that's really truly trying to do the right thing. And people can see through that. You talk about how Englanders have a sense of fairness, and if you give people, if that good person stands up and says something that's obviously right, like we ought not be flooded by foreigners. I mean, anybody who believes that the flood of foreigners, both here in the U.S. and in England, is a good thing, I don't get it. I don't understand why that's a good thing.
Well, it isn't, is it? Let's be honest. I mean, what's so attractive about being replaced? It's an absolutely bizarre thing. And when you look back at some of the propaganda that's been forced on both of our countries, that we're actually supposed to celebrate our replacement. Not a particularly attractive prospect with anyone with more than an IQ of about 60, I don't think.
But here in the States, there's really no opposition. We don't have any. They're groups, they're internet warriors, but in terms of an organized political effort, we don't have any. To my way of, I don't know of any organized political movement in the States that wants to run for office and then would be legally elected and then would change the law to bring relief.
Well, I've got theories about that, as I've said before. One of my other theories is that you've got the space to run away. You can go and live up in the mountains or somewhere like that, and people don't have to face the problem. Here, we can't run anywhere, and people have to face the problems down. I'm afraid there's no dodging the issue. You've got to deal with it. You can't bow your head down and just accept that things are the way they are. Sometimes you have to pick your head up look at what's happening, and as you Americans would say, be a man.